So some women also, when they're in this cult of domesticity, some women are going to start questioning it, and they're going to start believing that maybe they shouldn't have to have babies, get married, go to church, be a good wife. That maybe they too should be an individual. Women are not allowed to own property if their husband's alive, and they can't keep their wages if their husband's alive. Now, if their husband's dead, some states is going to be a little bit different. It just depends on where you're at. Most of the time, women are going to be able to own property, but that's about it. When you look at women who are thinking different, they would be your abolitionists and your suffragists. Abolitionists, remember, is anti-slavery, and suffragist is someone who wants the voting rights. So the Grimke sisters, they're Southern plantation raised, so they were children of a Southern plantation owner, and they're going to go against their background, their heritage, and they're going to become abolitionists, and they're going to become suffragists. Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony are also suffragists. Lucretia Mott and Stanton are going to be the organizers of Seneca Falls. And Seneca Falls is the great big meeting where the women get together and they decide that they want voting rights, and they're going to issue the Declaration of Sentiments that basically says that all men and women are created equal. Susan B. Anthony, Stanton, Mont, these are the women that you need to know for suffragists. The Grimke sisters, they're suffragists, but they're also abolitionists as well. And it wouldn't be odd that they were going to be in the same group, because if I'm a female and I'm saying that I deserve the right to vote, then I'm saying I'm the equal to a man. And then you start looking at how all people are equal. The temperance movement, temper, know your temper. This is going to be another female driven movement to do away with alcohol, to ban, limit the consumption of alcohol. And you can see the reason why they're kind of actually getting a huge following is that alcohol consumption is up in the country during this time period. You know, the drunkard's process. So from the first glass to the grave, here's one of their propaganda tools that they use. So suffragists, abolitionists, and temperance movement, they were really kind of female driven in a lot of ways. You can see in 1917, here are the suffragists outside President Wilson's White House, and they're asking him for the right to vote. And so some of them actually tie themselves to phone poles. They do all kinds of stuff to get the right to vote. They do starvation, where they refuse to eat. Not one, piece of bread, not one drop of water will pass my lips until I can vote. They do all this stuff in order to actually get the right to vote. And remember, President Woodrow Wilson will give them the right to vote, and he'll give them the right to vote with the 19th Amendment, and it's kind of a thank you for the war effort. So during World War I, a lot of women help out. And so in the 19th Amendment, he goes ahead and he ratifies it, he approves it, and he passes the women's suffrage right. So women also are into education, and that's going to be Horace Mann as well, but you're going to see women getting an education as well. Health reform is going to be something that we see as well, because again, this is kind of something that affects women, it affects them at the home. Seneca Falls Convention is the big thing that you guys need to know for women's rights. So they wrote the Declaration of Sentiments, and they're asking for voting rights. So in the Declaration of Sentiments, they say all men and women are created equal. And the crowd went wild, right? Whenever you announced that. So please know Stanton and Mott are the organizers of Seneca Falls, that at Seneca Falls they issue the Declaration of Sentiments. You even have a memorial to these brave women who went there and signed this Declaration of Independence. What it would be like if ladies had their own way. Okay, so here's the woman. She's going off in the carriage. And look at the men. Oh, they're washing the clothes and watching the baby. So this is obviously a very anti-female, anti-suffragist poster. So some men are not very fond of these women who are trying to change things. We are going to see changing at the workplaces too. We're going to see development of the industry, so we get kind of this market revolution that's going on in the country where we're having factories really building up. We get the decline of skilled labor. We're starting to get more immigration into the country, and so we get more unskilled labor. And you don't have to be a skilled laborer to work in these factories during this time period. We get the growth of our urban areas, which means our city areas, and the cost of goods is going to decrease and the supplies increase. Remember that in your economics class. Whenever you start producing more and you have a whole lot on the shelf, the prices are going to start dropping. The Lowell factory, the Lowell system, is going to be a big textile mill, and a textile, remember, is cloth, and it's a factory system that is in the north. The Lowell's mill is going to hire women, young girls, to work. And they're very, very strict with the young girls. Like, they live there at the factory. A lot of times you have company towns for factories. Like here in North Carolina, Cannon Mills, they had homes that their workers could live in, and they charged them rent every single month, and they took it out of your paycheck. Pullman Town, remember the great Pullman strike that Eugene Debs refused to go to actual work? He refused to follow the government injunction and went to jail. That's the company town. So company towns are actually pretty common for the actual factories at this time period, and they're very, very strict always with the people and their workers' lives. So strict control over the workers' life. The factory conditions are going to kind of warn us of future problems. The conditions are horrible. Long hours, 6 days a week. They don't have very good ventilation or lighting. They have unsafe working conditions. Excuse me. And thanks to all of this, we're going to get the development of labor unions and strikes. So remember the factory conditions that I put you guys in, and I was yelling and screaming at you for, every little bit, and your dolls came out looking like Stewie from Family Guy. It's not a very nice condition to work in, and so naturally you're going to have people who want better hours, better pay, better working conditions, and remember, that's always the call for unions. Immigration, there's a lot of immigration in our country in the mid-1800s. What we look at here is we're going to have new versus old immigrants, and this is kind of a Goal 5 connection, but the old immigrants are white, they're Protestant, and they typically speak English. The new immigrants are typically from Eastern or Southern Europe, from Asia. They're typically not white, and they do not speak English, and they're Catholic, Jewish, or an Asian faith. And so what you kind of see going on in the mid-1800s is a anti-immigrant feeling, a nativist sentiment going on in our country. A lot of immigrants are coming to the United States because they really do believe that this country is the land of opportunity. And they're coming here because they're either escaping religious persecution, they're escaping maybe political turmoil in their own countries, but they're coming here because they believe that this is the city, the area, that they're going to make it rich. So they go to the big cities, they go to New York, they go to Chicago, they go somewhere in a city that has factories because that's what they're going to work at. Low wages of immigrants are going to make union activity very difficult in the beginning, and we see this Know Nothing Party, a nativist political party that is going to try and limit immigration, and they do get limitations on immigration passed. You're going to see the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1890 kind of getting passed because of them, and the Know Nothings kind of blend into the Republican Party when the Republican Party forms in the 1850s. And they're called the Know Nothings because it's a secret political party. They don't want people to know that they're in this party. So Irish immigrants are coming over here. Now they're coming over here because there's famine going on in their own country, and they're coming over here for a better way of life. The Irish immigrants are going to face a lot of prejudice because they're Catholic, and so you're going to start seeing immigrants joining together in a neighborhood called a ghetto. And so a ghetto is just an ethnic neighborhood. So like Little Italy of New York, Chinatown of New York, these places are going to be created to protect themselves. And they're protecting themselves against people like the Know Nothings, who aren't just always politically anti-immigrant. Sometimes they're actually physically anti-immigrant, which means that they would do hate crimes against people who are immigrants. So you see that we're switching. We're going to be looking at the market revolution and regional differences. So a market revolution is basically the United States becoming a factory or an industrial-based economy. So by markets, the markets are expanding. So by the mid-1800s, people are no longer totally self-sufficient. Like, I like Coach purses, but I certainly don't make them. I have to go to a Coach store and go purchase that purse. Now I don't like herd or do anything with cows. I don't know anything about cows. You guys know I don't know anything about farms, okay? So I wouldn't even know how to kill a cow, let alone skin it and like treat the hide and all that. That's just too much. I'd rather just buy the thing and just have some expert who understands leather and understands how to make a logo for me to buy so that I can wear my Coach purses everywhere. So you produce one product to sell for money. So Coach, a long time ago, came out with Coach purses. And so they produce one product to sell and to sell for profit. I mean, extreme profit, but that's what you do. So you buy all your other products that you're going to consume in your household. So my product that I produce to sell is obviously education. And I sell my educational skills for a small amount of money. I mean, it's a meager amount, but it holds me over. And so I buy all my other products that I'm going to consume in my house. I buy all the food because I ain't growing it. I'm going to go ahead and buy all my clothes because I don't know how to sew either. Shocker. I don't know how to do any of that stuff, so I got to buy all that stuff. The only thing I actually know how to do is probably teach. But that's my specialization. I've developed a skill, a craft, and I pursue it to perfection, whether you believe it or not. So the markets expand. Capitalism, remember this back from your civics course, capitalism is the system of economics, it's the system of making money. It's called capital, that's money, and then ism, the belief of money. So private persons own the means of production and sell for profit. In capitalism, the government does very little. The government has a laissez-faire policy on the economy. So you and I can buy and trade however we want, as much as we want, because it doesn't matter, because we own all means of production and we sell it. Prices of goods are going to be determined by you and me. This is called the free market. So you know, the reason why Coach purses are so expensive is because you and I are willing to pay $300 for a purse. It's probably really about $20 worth of material. The standard of living is going to start to increase for everybody during this time period. And it's increasing because of capitalism. People are being able to produce more, and when people are being able to produce more, goods costs go down. And so we get someone like Charles Goodyear. Charles Goodyear is going to create, yes, like the tire, he's going to create the vulcanized rubber. And vulcanized rubber, Vulcan, okay, volcano, it just means it can be really hot and it doesn't fall apart and it doesn't constrict a whole lot in the winter. So this is a rubber that's going to eventually help when cars are invented and when Henry Ford really kind of like branches off and makes the common car for the common man. So vulcanized rubber allows for improvements in the factory. You can heat it up and it doesn't melt, and in the winter it doesn't crack and break and become brittle. I.M. Singer is going to invent sewing machines. Now there are other people like Elijah Howe. You guys remember him? Probably not, but if you don't, it's okay. So Elijah Howe also has a sewing machine, but Singer sewing machines are still like the #1 seller. So sewing machines are going to allow for a quick production of clothing, and that's going to mean that your mom can actually now go out and get a job, and she's going to get a job at sewing. And it's really going to be for young girls, like at the Lowe's factory. But mom can also make little like clothes on the side. She can make clothes for the family easier. Inventions are really improving our life. So like with Samuel Morse, he invents the telegraph. And the telegraph is basically just a vibration that's sent through the wires, and the message is going to be read as Morse code. It's just dots. And those dots mean something. It means a code, a word, a message that you're sending. And the significance of the actual telegraph is it connects the East and the West. So we get telecommunications from this. Later we get telephones. We'll get the first transatlantic telegraph, and thanks to the first transatlantic telegraph, here's your connection to later in life, the Zimmerman note. Telegram. Remember that? That's the one where Mexico and Germany are talking, and they're thinking about going ahead and reconquering all the land that we lost. They lost in the Mexican-American War. And so that's through the first transatlantic telegraph. Transportation is also improving. Robert Fulton created the steamship, the steam-powered ships. You can go up and down the river. Canals are going to be built, particularly because we've got this boat that can go up and down. So like the Erie Canal, thanks to the American system, is going to be created. And the Erie Canal is going to connect the Hudson to the actual Great Lakes. So The Hudson is New York, all the way to the Great Lakes, which is like the Ohio, Michigan area. We get railroads too. Railroads are mainly going to be in the north and not in the south, which becomes a good point